Welcome to the times of long ago. Not that long ago. I'm actually rehearsing a line when I say that, and I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. And Luke, I just saw you walking in. Hello there. Good to see you. Good to see some former students tonight. Good to see some family tonight. And good to see friends and all of you. Thank you for coming out on a hot day. And it was Sunday afternoon, I got word about a request to be here tonight. And I said, well, I'll put together something. And I wasn't sure what. And hopefully I'll speak about something that sort of sheds a little bit of insight, maybe not just about me, but the place where I've been fortunate to teach. Some of you have heard and have mentioned this is 30 years for me. I've been in the classroom for 30 years. And if you counted the 2 years I subbed full-time beforehand, I guess that'd be 32. But you can't count that. But I've been 30 years at Barren County High School. It all started. I won't tell you all the journey to that point in 1992 when I finished up at Western. But I went to Western on the 10-year plan, and I don't advise anyone to do that. Okay. There was a lot of working full-time in part of that, and we eventually finished up. I was very fortunate to have my student teaching under Mr. Jesse Brown, who is in the audience tonight as well, and I appreciate you.
I was fortunate too.
I could sit down and just let you talk about, you know, a career. That's what I could do. But I learned a lot from Mr. Brown. I've known him over the years, and he has been a mentor to me and someone I look up to, and I greatly appreciate it. We went into Barren County High School fall of 1994, and the first 6 years of my teaching was in exceptional childhood education. Dorothy McCubbin had asked, why don't you consider going back and getting your certification in that area? Because there would probably be a job just like that compared to social studies jobs at that particular time. And I did, and enjoyed 6 years in ECE, as they call it, and happened to be department head in that department for about 3 years. And I was with the principal interviewing teachers for our department that summer when the phone call came in to his desk in between interviews, and we were just talking, and he hung up the phone after he answered it, and he said, well, now I've got to look for a social studies teacher. And I sort of did that, and made the transition into regular education, where I have been since the 2000-2001 school year, and it has been a privilege to teach. I've taught political science, and that was an enjoyable class. Happened to have Mr. Aaron Reese as a student once upon a time in that class. And taught World Civ, U.S. History. We had a class called Social Sciences, and I'm just curious, I see former students, 3 former students in the back there. Did you all ever have Social Sciences? Was that gone before you all?
My freshman year, I think it was a thing, but I never had it.
Yeah, it went away. It was a good class. It was focused on geography, economics, and sociology. It was a fun class to teach, and enjoyed that immensely. I have really enjoyed teaching AP U.S. History over the past few years, and working with students. And I think I had you 3 in that class once upon a time, and hopefully it was good. You're here tonight. I don't know if that's a sign or not, but I do appreciate you all. I can never forget, Luke Edmonds ran for a class office, and I had, until we took furniture out of the classroom for remodeling, I had that picture of you as Captain America on my wall forever as you were campaigning for an office there. And Another class that I have taught over the past 11 years was an elective class called The Bible and Its Influence. And that was an enjoyable class to teach. I have always enjoyed studying the Bible, teaching the Bible, but when I learned that there was a way to present it in public education, that piqued my interest. And I started investigating the curriculum. Luke, were you in that class or not?
I just barely missed it.
You barely missed it, didn't you? But I know you're someone who appreciates the Word too. And I was just very privileged to teach that. I had the opportunity to be involved in the Standards Committee in Frankfort, and went up several times as we put together. Actually, there was a state law a few years ago that essentially required school districts to offer it in some form or fashion. And if anything is offered in the realm of education, there have to be some standards that go with it. So I had the privilege to sit on a board with other high school teachers and university professors, and we put the standards together for such class. And I taught it as a survey. Some of you may have had a survey class at the university level, survey of the Old Testament, survey of the New Testament, and I sort of approached it in that way. That was enjoyable to teach over the years. And if you're involved in education, you often find yourself doing a lot of other things. And one of the other things that I've been more involved in the past 3 years or so, more than anything, is bus driving. That makes for some long days, but you know, I enjoyed it, except when the heat index is 107. That's not as enjoyable on a bus, but I enjoy students in the realm of ministry. I've worked with children and student ministries, and I have a heart for kids, and I've just been blessed to be involved in a number of different ways in the classroom. Probably when I look back over my tenure, one of the most enjoyable, and it wasn't just one event, but several times I had the opportunity to take students on trips and travel. And I believe some of you all were involved in that. Zach, where did you go?
Okay, I went to KYA Kuna with you, then also Glasgow Baptist Church. We went to Gatlinburg.
Okay. John David, you were on one of the bigger trips, weren't you?
We went to D.C.
Okay. And was that paired with Gettysburg, or do you remember where else we traveled there?
We might have.
I've done, and Luke, you were on a trip, weren't you?
The KYA.
The KYA, you were involved in that as well. I still, when we're getting students ready for KYAs, let me tell you about what that is. You're hearing all these letters. KYA stands for Kentucky Youth Assembly. And it's part of Y Club, or Student YMCA. The Kentucky YMCA oversees this organization for all schools in Kentucky. And they have several conferences in the fall and in the spring. In the fall, it's student government. And essentially, it's a mock state legislature. So it's always been a privilege to get students ready to be either a representative or a senator. And I've even had some governor candidates. We get ready, we write bills, we go, and they argue legislation and debate. And there are times that I think back to some of you all in your debating skills, and I will remember something you did, and you know, wish you were there to teach these young ones how to do it, you know. But we keep plugging away. Mr. Jody Miller is the other sponsor of Y Club. One of the other conventions that we've traveled to in the spring is called the Kentucky United Nations Assembly. We call it CUNA for short. And and we represent a country, and we deal with world issues there. But oh my goodness, each conference probably has 1,200 students easily. Normally we're either at Crown Plaza near the airport or Galt House. It's a big, you know, it's a pretty big deal. It's always been a privilege to see students grow, especially in their speaking skills. Some of them may not have spoken publicly at all, and then they get up there and get their feet wet and they love it, and then they go back year after year and they're presenting legislation and persuading others to vote for it, and it's just a really cool experience to see that happen. I'll go back to some of the other trips. There were 6 times. One was to New York City and Philadelphia, another to New York City and Boston, paired those 2 places together. These were week-long trips that just arranged a tour and took students to see sites that many of them had never seen before. And then I took 4 DC trips, and always paired something with the DC trips like Colonial Williamsburg or Gettysburg, and again, just, you know, immerse students in history. The best way to immerse students in history is to take them places where history happened and where it means something. So I always enjoyed doing that, especially there were a few times where there would be kids on those trips that had never left Kentucky to go anywhere. And just to take them to a new place and experience that was just extremely enjoyable. I have been privileged at BCHS also to be a leader for FCA, a huddle advisor, be the technical name. But that is a student-led organization, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And Luke, you were heavily involved in that for many years, freshman through senior year, I believe. And it was always a privilege to see students take the lead in those activities. And a lot of good memories teaching at Barren County High School. When I started teaching, I'm going to go back to the beginning just for a moment, I had to be on my toes, okay? Because my mom was in the guidance office. She was the secretary in the guidance office. So I knew I'd better be on my toes because Mom was right there. And it was pretty cool to work with Mom for a few years. When did you retire, Mom?
05.
05. So
I went to Barren County in 91.
For about 10 years, we were privileged to work together. 11 years, I guess, and that was enjoyable. It's almost like a family affair, and I guess with the name Steenbergen, you might expect that. And one of the first questions that I'll often get when people ask, or when I mention where I teach, they'll ask, "Are you related to Bobby Steenbergen?" And I am, but it's distant. You know, there are a lot of Steenbergens, and we're so many cousins down the line. But it's been great to have family involvement. My sister is a teacher at Barren County High School, and yeah, when kids find that out, you know, they're sort of amazed, I guess. They're surprised. You mean Miss Smith is your teacher? I said, yeah, she's my older, I said, they'll ask, you mean she's your sister? I said, yeah, she's my older sister. Okay, I can't believe that. And I never would tell them any differently, and then they would go to my 9-year younger sister and heard you were Mr. Steenbergen's older sister, and of course she's just ready to fight then. But it's been fun being with Sis over the years, and my dad drove a school bus, my grandfather drove a school bus, my grandmother was a cafeteria worker, So you might say it runs in the family, I don't know. But it's been a privilege to do that. And now, my wife is at the middle school. Go figure. She's working as registrar at the middle school now, so when I leave after this year, I have a feeling that I'll still be around in some form or fashion. I'm not sure. But I am planning on retiring this year. 30 years is probably long enough. I don't know when it was. Mr. Brown, you will probably have a similar recollection. When you have students that begin to tell you, my mom went to school with you, my dad went to school with you, and I've had, I don't know how many children of folks I graduated high school with. You know, that's just sort of a weird feeling. And then over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, when you hear my grandma went to school with you, my grandpa went to school with you, it's like, it's time I need to think about retiring, I guess, you know? I don't know about that. But it's been enjoyable. One thing that I want to sort of take a turn on is not so much my teaching career, but the fact that Barren County High School is 50 years old this school year. 1973-74 school year is the opening year for the 4 elementary schools to be together in that place over on Trojan Trail. And this is the big 50th. And there are going to be some other activities that are happening at ball games and whatnot in the future. You'll just have to be listening for some of those things. But we'll be talking about it a lot. And it is interesting. Let me ask this question. How many of you all graduated from Barren County High? Okay, I was just curious. And some of you have probably had children and grandchildren that have attended Barren County. I can remember, one of my earliest memories of that campus was the summer of 1973. My grandfather went to pick up his bus before the school year at the bus garage, and the bus garage at that time was on College Street. If you know where Kingery's Auto Repair is on College Street, that was the bus garage back in the day. And my grandmother had driven us into town, and I was going to ride with him on the bus. 73, I would have been, what, 9 years old, or 8, going on 9 that fall. And we got on the bus to leave. He said, let's go out and see the new high school. And that was the first remembrance I have of going out Roseville Road. We turned on this 1-lane gravel road. It might have been 1 lane and a half, but it was a 1-lane gravel road. We went over a little concrete 1-lane bridge around what would now be the back of the baseball field and meandered up to the hillside, and there was a building up there. And of course the vocational school was there. That was it. It was the only 2 things building wise. There was a lot of corn there. I think there was some even tobacco, and there was a little red barn out in the field that sat way out there. And, you know, it was farmland, and here they had carved a place for schools. And you travel down through time, and some of you may have seen an aerial photo floating around on social media. We had a former graduate, Chris Shawk's daughter is a pilot now, and she was flying around within the past week and took an aerial photo of the campus. And it's just unreal. You know, you not only have the high school, but a bigger high school compared to 1973. You've got so many buildings. It's just sort of unreal how the campus has grown. The end zone is our newest building slash football arena, I guess you might say, and it's just grown by leaps and bounds. And then when you look aerially, you see Barren County Middle School that came around 99, 2000. You look over and see Western Kentucky University Glasgow campus sitting over there. It's just amazing how everything has changed over the years. Mr. Brown, you taught at WKU Glasgow. Were you at the new campus out there or on Liberty Street when it was there?
Yes, both places.
Both places? So,
Liberty Street and out there.
and it's just amazing when we look at not only you were at Glasgow and things have changed on the Glasgow campus in the past few years.
3 different buildings during my time. Yeah.
Okay. So you started on Liberty Street.
Right.
Things change. And we like to remember how they were, but we appreciate the changes. And we look forward to, I'm sure there'll be more as we move forward. I give my students now, and I'm not sure if I don't think I was doing this when you three were in school. Near the end of the school year for my classes, we will take a walking field trip around the campus of the high school. And I'll tell them how the building used to look. And when we're at a political science classroom, for example, this used to be the front office. The front office, it's in the middle of the building, And those used to be the front doors, I was among the first freshman class to go to Barren County in the fall of '78. That was when the gym had been added and additional classrooms. Previously, only 10th through 12th grade had been going, and 9th graders stayed behind at places like Austin Tracy High School, Park City, and Temple Hill. It was eye-opening as a freshman, such a big building, and how it was. But my students seem to get a kick out of thinking about how it used to be, and I just try to maneuver around, show them a little bit of how things were, and give them a little appreciation for the place where many of them had parents and grandparents go to school. We have a view board now as you enter the main hallway, and students can go over and look at previous yearbooks. Okay? Now that's something I'm sure everybody remembers. Getting your yearbook and appreciating your classmates and signing in it and whatnot. I'm just curious, was there anyone else like me when I was a small kid to get my parents' yearbooks and look at them and maybe laugh every once in a while because of the way they dressed, or the glasses that they wore, or the way they wore their hair, and that sort of thing? I don't know if kids do that today with their parents' yearbooks or not as much, but this view board that sort of like, you can see eye level the screen and touch, you can find any yearbook. And as I have showed them that on the tour last couple of semesters, they would ask, somebody would inevitably ask, "Hey, Mr. Steenbergen, when did you graduate?" And they'll punch in 1982, and they'll flip over to the senior photos, and they'll find my picture, of all things, and they start laughing. It's like, why did I tell them that? But they have a good time, and they enjoy the laughter, and they, they make fun just a little bit. But yeah, they appreciate the old yearbooks. That's something the high school has done, And they're trying to digitize not only Barren County High School yearbooks, but they're looking for clean copies, okay, of yearbooks from the 4 previous high schools, so that they can digitize those and have a virtual record of things to appreciate. And you can get online and look that up. You can go home, and I can't tell you exactly how, I'd have to stop and figure it out, but you can go home and look up the yearbooks. You can find the 1982 yearbook and laugh at my picture too when you get home, if you want to. But they're wanting to digitize high school and all of the schools and have that as a record for future generations, because we're getting into the era where people don't appreciate books. I don't know what the numbers are, but we don't sell as many yearbooks as a school as they did back in the day, when it seemed like everybody's got to have one. It's just different, and that's a cool thing to do. And I'm sure the other neighborhood schools are probably going to do that same kind of thing eventually, just to have a way for future folks to, appreciate that. And it just hit me, maybe there's a chance we could get some view boards at the Cultural Center and have those things accessible in a different way here. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. But yeah, people don't, read books, okay? My wife reads, what is that you read?
A fire tablet.
She reads a fire tablet. She sits there and reads, and I see smoke. Just no, it's not that. But it's just different. Okay. Speaking of, I've got 2 cases of encyclopedias I'll sell anybody in my garage. But nobody wants to buy those. I know. Yeah, Barren County High School, 50 years old. My first principal there was Mr. James Coomer. Many of you know Mr. Coomer. He served in the Barren County system for years, and finished as an assistant superintendent, transportation director, and was around. I remember when he would make announcements. There are some things you just remember about your school days. And I think I see some other people that remember Mr. Coomer's announcements too. You would hear that microphone click. Give me your undivided attention. May I have your undivided attention every time that he got on. And we listened. We said, we gave him our undivided attention. It takes just a little bit more to get undivided attention in the year 2023. I'm just saying. We've got a lot of attention getters, I guess. And we just have to really work to get that undivided attention. That's one thing I remember from my earlier days at Barren County High School as a student. Never dreamed that I would be a teacher someday. It was my junior year that the history bug really bit. And that was thanks to my AP US history teacher, Helen Russell. Anyone have Helen Russell as a teacher by chance? And some of you may have had her at Western. She taught Kentucky history at Western's campus for a time. Now she could hold undivided attention as well. And she was the first person that encouraged me, that inspired me to want to be like her someday. And I sure don't measure up, I know. But she was the first person to really cause me to want to pursue history as a career. I was a history major and a geography minor. I would have gotten a full-time job in regular education had I gone maybe with an English minor or a math minor, something else, a little variety, but I was just eat up with social studies, I never did really like math. And lo and behold, for the past 15 years, my history classroom has been the classroom I had geometry in. You know, so yeah, I've made a lot of good memories in that classroom, but occasionally I'll think back to Anna Wilson and geometry, and Anna Wilson was a great teacher and a great person. I just didn't like algebra and geometry or math. But anyway, that's beside the point. I have and hadn't really planned on sharing this, but I will, and I'll try to make it through it. But I remember being next door to that room in a typing class, and my seat was looking out the window. Now, not that I was a daydreamer or anything, but there was one day that I could not wait for. And I was going to take my permit test, my driver's permit. I was looking for my dad to pull up. And at that time, the circle out front, today it's a bus circle, but at that time, that was where parents pulled up. And I was waiting, you know, to get a glimpse of the car as he was coming to pick me up to take me to the courthouse. And I think of that occasionally when I'm standing there looking at that bus circle out my classroom window. And I was privileged to, before he retired, he worked 32 years at Kroger in Bowling Green, drove back and forth. He started, here's another history lesson for some of you. You don't know Glasgow had a Kroger back in the day, do you? Most of you do. Central Center Shopping Center. He started with them, and then it didn't last very long there, and he decided to travel back and forth and drove back and forth to Kroger. He retired, and he started driving a bus full-time. He had driven part-time school trips back when I was in the high school band. And there are some stories I can tell. I'll come back to the band in just a second. But he drove for a number of years. What year did he retire from bus driving?
2012.
2012. And I moved in the room where I am probably around 2006, 2007. I can't remember exactly what year. But at one time, the buses at that time pulled up to unload, but they sat on the bus until a certain time when they could get off the bus. Okay? And now I look out the window and I think about, because he was always one of the early buses and would sit sort of right there. I could look out the window and wave, and through the technology of cell phones, you know, I would call him while he was just sitting there. And, hey, Dad. and that'd be nice to do again, but I know time goes on. Time marches on. But that brings back good memories. I would like to hear his phone ring again, because he had this chicken clucking ringtone. Anybody have a chicken clucking ringtone? I was going to call you just to let me hear that again. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. Let me go back to the band. Dad drove a lot of band trips to band contests. We went to New Orleans twice, I believe it was. We went to Knoxville. He was a band booster if there ever was. Now, Mom was too, but Dad went on all those. He drove. He was ready to go, you know. And he farmed too, and it didn't matter, you know, what he was doing or how tired he was. He was always ready to go. And we went on a lot of band trips. Now, back in the day, was anyone else in the band in the 1970s at Barren County? I'm just curious. Well, here's a little history lesson for you in regards to that. It was a struggle. Okay? The band, the mothers, had to make our own uniforms. We didn't have the money to buy nice uniforms. They had to make the uniforms. I mean, it just took a lot. When we went to New Orleans the first time, we didn't have enough money to stay in a hotel or a motel, much less. We stayed at a camping area across from Lake Pontchartrain, we drove, and if you've crossed the bridge at Lake Pontchartrain, you know how long that bridge is, like 30 miles or so, and went into the swamp there was one building that was a boys' barrack, and then the girls camped maybe a fourth of a mile down in the girls' barrack, and it's like, are we going to step on an alligator from the bus to the building? You know, it's like, this is sort of crazy. We did some wild things, you know, traveled in a different way back in the day. Thankfully, things have changed. The band has grown, and it's different now. But I was a band kid. Have a lot of good memories with traveling in the band, and that's something that I often think about. In my 30 years, much less 50 years of the high school, in my 30 years as a teacher, things have changed. Okay? But if you look at society and culture, things have changed. Maybe not so much for the better, but things change. I am thankful that I started teaching when I did. I have a lot of good memories, and even in the recent years, I've had great memories. Well, I'll just take this for example. Okay, I thought it'd be proper to be official since I'm talking about teaching, to bring my name tag. Okay, we're not supposed to go without these very much. There's state law that says we got to wear these, you know, and I don't mind. It's not that bad of a picture. I did a real funny thing last couple of years because inevitably mine turns around. Well, I had an old school ID from 20 years ago, and it broke at the beginning of the school year, so I just found a sticker to put on the other side. But I had my picture, you know, occasionally of this turned around. It was me 20 years ago. And yes, I look different 20 years ago than I do now. And kids would often sit there, and eventually somebody would ask, why have you got somebody else's badge on? You know, who is that? It's me. And, you know, I would, you know, but anyway, we'd have fun with that. I used to teach with my classroom door open. And that's probably one of the things I miss the most. Just being able to have a sense that the whole building is safe. And obviously we can't do that anymore. I always like just leaving the door open and teaching away. And I've always tried to be sort of a little active and not just be in one place at one time. I don't know, guys, I might have moved around the room too much or not enough for you back in the day. But let me ask you all, was the door open ever when you all were in? Do you remember me leaving the door open?
We were in the trailer.
Now the trailer, that's a whole other thing right there. That's a whole other story. Yeah. Let me refresh my memory on. Yeah, we're okay. I'm not going to keep you over an hour, so we're okay. I've had 4 different classrooms. Okay, the third classroom before where I'm at now was a double-wide trailer classroom at the end of the English hall. Okay, my most profound memory from that room, a couple of things. I remember in 2001, on a Tuesday morning, I've often had first period planning, and I'd go in and start planning and work, but I remember it's a beautiful day. I mean, the weather was comfortable, it was beautiful, sunny, looked up in the sky, little contrails and planes going over, and it was just nice. And I was working away, and then get a phone call from my wife's office, turn on the TV. And that was it. Wonder what's going on. And I turned around and turned the TV on, and one of the World Trade Center buildings was on fire. And we all know where we were September 11th. That's sort of one of the first things I think about when I think of the trailer. Political science class, I was getting ready to take students in my political science class to the trial of David Leroy Skaggs. Who remembers that story in the news? Okay, and this was the retrial. This was the new trial. And I often tried to arrange trips with my political science to visit the courthouse. If a trial wasn't going on just to sit in, at least, you know, go visit, have Judge Benny Dickinson, for example, have a Q&A with students. That was always enjoyable. And now going to the jail was different, because I would always tell the kids, now we're going to take a tour through the jail, and the jailers would lead us through and whatnot. Don't talk to anybody. Just don't talk to anybody. And we would start walking through the jail, and, hey, Mr. Steenbergen, from the other side. Hello. Mr. Steenbergen, you said not to talk to anybody, you know. I said hello. But yeah. I was getting ready to take the class to the David Leroy Skaggs trial, and checking attendance, getting ready to get on the bus, and that's always been a blessing to be able to drive my trips. And I was getting ready to get the kids on the bus, and we were coming downtown, and Steve Riley came running into the room and said, "You need to go to Red Cross. Your daughter's broken her arm. I'll take the kids for you." He knew where I was going, and he took off with them, you know. And I had to miss the next day. I think I had some trips planned that next day for a couple of other classes going to sit in. But I missed it. The kids still got to, you know, tell me about what they heard when I got back. But yeah, the trailer. It's not good when you have a substitute teacher, and you really worry. You know, was my class that bad for them? I came back after being, not that particular time, but I was off for a couple of days for some reason, and walked in the room in that trailer, and lo and behold, you could see the ground underneath the floor, and it's like somebody had jumped and a hole, you know. That's when they realized, you know, we probably need to think about getting rid of the trailer. And it wasn't too many years before I moved into the room where I'm at now, where have been for many years. Every semester for, oh my goodness, Debbie is here now, Katie was here, Sherry was here, all the way back to when Gail Berry started. And I don't remember what year that was. When did this open for visitors?
2001, I think.
Okay.
2000.
Well, I've tried with all my classes, especially U.S. history and world history classes, to bring them to the Cultural Center. We have a 90-minute block scheduled. For most of my classes have been that way. So it's been good to, you know, maneuver down here. Zach, John, Luke, did you all come to the Cultural Center? Hey, do you remember, had you been to the Cultural Center before I brought you, by chance? I see one yes, one no. And you all will have the memory of Hack Bertram, who put on the big Indian chief headdress and would give the tour for us through, you know, it was a delight to get to know Hack and have him direct our tours here. But going back, when I was talking about trips, one of the best ways to immerse students in history is to take them to historic places. And we are privileged to have that kind of place right here. I mean, this ranks any other history museum as far as I'm concerned, with the exhibits that we have here, and the ability to preserve a little bit of local history. And classes that I've been bringing now 20 years, the majority of the students, when we walked into the place, didn't know it existed. And their parents, some of their parents didn't know it existed, you know. And when we leave, they say, "Oh, I'm going to bring mom and dad back to this, you know. I want to come back." Or I want to bring grandma back. You know, it's a privilege that we have what we do. And that will be a good plug for me to tell you about the Harvest of History before I close tonight. We've had fundraisers going on for maybe, I don't know when the Harvest of History first started. I can't remember exactly. It's been going on a long time. I'm getting ready to present my third character, someone of local history. The first person that I got the privilege to present was Lucian Carden. Raise your hand if you know who Lucian Carden is. See if anybody remembers. I know my wife remembers because she was the lady in the chair. Y'all been to the old part of the cemetery and there's a monument with a lady sitting up there? Okay, well that's Ella. I was Lucian. She agreed to play Ella as long as she didn't have to say anything. So she sat in the chair while I portrayed Lucian Carden and talked about his life. Okay? He lived from 1842 to 93. And then not too many years ago, I portrayed Francis Jones, F.M. Jones, was on his store. The rain drove us inside that time, and all our tours were here in the Cultural Center. And then my third character I'm getting ready to portray in the upcoming Harvest of History, September the 8th and the 9th. And this book has something to do with it. It's called The Times of Long Ago. That's sort of why I said what I did at the very beginning. I'm going to portray Franklin Gorin, who was the first white child born in Barren County. The first child of an immigrant family from Virginia who moved to these parts. John Gorin was his father. John Gorin that donated the land for the city of Glasgow and for the first courthouse to be built. And so the Gorin family has a rich history, and I'm going to do my best to present Franklin Gorin in a couple of weeks. So that's a good way to preserve history. Mr. Brown, didn't you present someone at
Yes, George J. Ellis.
That's right. I couldn't remember
That
who it
was
was.
the same year.
That was the same year.
Yeah, that's the first time we had to come inside.
That was an enjoyable experience. One other thing that I can think of that I have a memory with Mr. Brown in regards to some time together was the fact that we were both part of the 2005 Leadership Glasgow Barren County class, to my recollection. That's been a while. And did you climb that tree stand and fall off backwards?
Yes, I did.
I did too, and I still amaze myself that I did that. But yeah,
I
that was
believe Alma Franklin, I believe, was in that group. She's my next door neighbor now.
yes.
I'd forgotten that.
That was an enjoyable way to learn more about Glasgow and Barren County than I wouldn't take anything for that experience. So that was a good experience there. But yeah, going back to Harvest of History, that's coming up, and tickets are probably on sale at the counter as you leave. I don't know, but check that out. That's always a good fundraiser to keep the museum going, and we appreciate all volunteers. This place exists through volunteers, so it's good to have so many that are willing to pour themselves into this place. Francis, Paul, good to see you all. Y'all have contributed to a lot of history too, haven't you? Genealogy room is right there. I've often tried to have my students do family history projects. They remember that. I always tell them, 20 years from now, you won't remember anything from U.S. history or world civ. I hope they do, but you will remember what you put together about your own family, and you'll just want to dig more and learn more. Ben Rogers and I was talking about that. Our rehearsal was just a couple of nights ago for Harvest of History. He's going to portray Edmund Rogers, by the way. But we don't appreciate some things until we're older. So I've always tried to light the spark as young as I can with the next generations to try to get them eager to learn more about their history. So it's been a privilege. Thank you all for coming out, and I'll quit talking about it.